making food, preparing food, eating food, gathering food, cleaning food. These guys are breatharians. And what's the miracle that comes with becoming a breatharian? You can walk on water. Whoa, don't go there. Why would you walk on water? That's the linear thinking of the global elite. Because they can't go into that direction. In any event, so we have created our own sovereign Squamish government jurisdiction. It's called common law jurisdiction. Common law, laws of the land, natural laws, peaceful laws. I will not harm you if you don't harm me, right? I prefer to, if you're going to come at me with a knife, yeah, of course, I'm going to have to defend myself. But in my particular case, because I don't believe in guns, I just say to the Creator, is that your will? Is that your way? So the beauty of sovereignty is really empowering yourself here in your heart. Because not only do you raise your vibrational frequency, you also show them that they have no power over you. When you remove that fear out and replace it with love and reclaim your sovereignty and say you are a human being that has the right to be abundant, happiness, joy, raising our children with fun and laughter and music and natural talents that every human being has been given a special talent. Everybody is special. You are all loved. You know it. I didn't need to stand here and tell you that because I see some smiling faces. So the sovereign Squamish government adopts common law jurisdiction, and by doing so, what we did was we put Capilano's story into an affidavit and we filed it at the BC Supreme Court Registry. I'm now being told that apparently that entire file is private. It's not public anymore. But anyway, you can access it on our website. We have a PDF format on that. What we did also was, in order to notify people of what the Canadian and the BC government is doing to the original hereditary people, is we put together a notice of facts and true statement of claims. This I have to put on the website. This is new information. This is dated June. And it provides you with some very alarming statistics on what the Canadian government is doing to everybody. Capilano is right. It's not just the true hereditary people, the red race bloodline, but it's also you guys now. Everybody is affected by this economic recession. And so what we did was, in the authentic certificate of authority, that's where we put all our laws. We adopted it from the Iroquois peace laws. We've adopted peace laws from the Mayan elders and from all over the world, from the hereditaries who were the peacekeepers of earth. And then what we did was we did a name change certificate. Vancouver is no longer Vancouver. Do you want to know what Captain Vancouver did when he came here to shore of the West Pacific coast? His sailors took off and they raped 9 of his women, 9 of the Squamish people women. In exchange for that, what happened was Captain Vancouver, as he was sailing out of the Burrard area, the Squamish people were waving, and then he ordered the cannons to kill off as many Squamish people because the hereditaries had killed 1 sailor for each sailor that had raped each woman. So there were 9 heads that were thrown onto the beach. That was their law at that time. We changed the Vancouver district, metro, whatever you want to call the corporation, we changed it into Sovereign Capilano for the time being on a temporary level, because there are some hereditaries that are still alive, but we're keeping them secret, because as soon as we let them out, the government goes after them. We have lost 7 big-time hereditary leaders. And the reason why we have lost them is because they stepped up to the platform and they said, no trespassing on my land, no pipelines, Enbridge, no more Monsanto, thank you very much. No more Health Canada with your vaccine programs. And as soon as you start saying no, the government goes after, and they use CSIS. RCMP has now been, we're told, being taken over by a corporation that we're not familiar with, but CSIS is their, the best way, and that is done by a needle system. And that's when you end up in the loony bin for 6 months. You get released after 6 months after being a guinea pig for the pharma mafia, and then you walk around and you go, I don't remember my name, and you become homeless, and you think that these homeless were really homeless to begin with? They were middle-class people who spoke up against the establishment. The government decided, nope, we're going to put them away. And the homeless keep increasing and increasing. However, so the Southern Squamish government has notified Mayor Gregor Robertson of the fact that it's no longer called Vancouver. And by doing so, we stated our reasons. Through this notification, we also served Mayor Gregor Robertson with this map claim. Mayor Gregor Robertson, if you have a problem with this land claim, come up and meet with us. 21 days, you got time to respond. But after 21 days, it's game over. It's now ours. We served this to the United Nations, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and at that time, Louise Arbour was the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner. What happened was she got affidavit number 2, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon got affidavit number 1, and Louise Arbour, who is a former Canadian federal judge, she went, this is not happening in my land, not in my country. And she met with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. She spoke out against Israel, and shortly after that she was canned for being too loud, for speaking for the true cause, for the true speakers. So we love Louise Arbour and continue to communicate all our paperwork to her, and she's now in Luxembourg and she's fighting for peace. And that's one of the main reasons why we don't like to categorize anybody into anything. It's in general. The Canadian and the BC government, they have this agenda, and that agenda is whatever it will be. The notice of claim, we put a lot of information into this particular document. That went out as well. And then in 2008, we went to the Squamish Band Council office with our intention to evict the band councils, because we knew what the band councils were doing to the hereditary people there. And we knew that there was a lot of corruption. And we served the affidavit number 2 as our evidence. And in front of Chris Kennedy, who was an RCMP officer at the time, we told him, in front of you, we are suing this band council for fraud with Minister Pat Bell, who was at that time former Lands and Housing. And you're not going to believe it. You know what Chris Kennedy said, this RCMP officer? He said, I am not recognizing the seal of the court. What did he just do? He committed treason against the Queen. He swore an oath to serve her, under oath and an allegiance to serve the Queen, and he said, no, I'm not accepting this as a legal document, and it's not, has no force and effect. And I looked at him and I said, really? I get to charge you with treason. What's treason? Life imprisonment. Long time ago, it was hanging, but life imprisonment. So we went after Chris Kennedy. And you know what they did to him? They promoted him. He's now a High Commissioner of the North Vancouver Detachment. That's what they do to you know, when you do a good job for the corrupt, they promote each other. They pat each other on the back. And so this was the notice of claim. This was a cease and desist of stealing natural resources. And what we did there was we also said permanent eviction notice to the band council members, permanent eviction notice to those who are not operating on a peace level, because we want taxation to go away. We're not your slaves. So what happened was people started to hear about us because we went into the UN. And the Maoris supported us. This is a recognition of our sovereignty by the Maoris. Jerry Otimi has been a strong supporter of us since 2008. He's got his own barter banking system, which is great. Then the hereditaries who we are traveling with now went to South Africa, and the Koshan people of Africa actually supported us, supported our sovereignty, and provided us with a letter of reference and recommendation. Then the Polynesian king invited us to Hawaii and said, yeah, sovereignty is the way to go. We want you to speak over there. But we had a problem. The Canadian government would not let us out of our own lands because we don't have Canadian ID, right? And they control the ports, seaports, airports, train ports. Everything is done in Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction language. And when you understand that, and you want to be a ship on their jurisdiction, then yeah, you have to comply to their laws. And you have to go through their procedures in order to get things done. But it's not a fair deal, guys. So here's Capilano. He received recognition by other hereditaries. And then, of course, Stephen Harper. He had to agree that he received the affidavit number 2 and service. And so Stephen Harper responded. The Queen responded. Now we get to use the Queen as a means of treason every time we walk into court and they don't recognize us. Hillary Clinton gave us an apostille recognition. It was a legal opinion done by an amazing, and I tell you, there are some wonderful attorneys out there. He's a New York State bar attorney. He gave a legal opinion on our Southern Squamish government, the court system that we put in place, our central banking system, and our commercial banking system. And then we had an apostille done by the Secretary of State of Washington. And then some of these politicians actually wake up. Former BC Minister of Finance, Carol Taylor, when she read her affidavit number 2, she said, I want nothing to do with this. And she walked off the job. She resigned voluntarily shortly after that. So there are some politicians, we can't put them all under one umbrella, but there are some politicians that are saying, you know what, I don't like this. So they, and then, get this, they are going so broke that the Abbotsford municipality actually called us in and said, we need funding from us, funding from us. Ooh, cool. So we went there and we said, no problem. We'd be happy to provide you provide us with a budget, comprehensive budget. We will provide you with a donation on the express term and condition that you do not tax anybody in Abbotsford and you do not charge any interest rates through your financial transactions. Oh, we can't do that. And so that's when the doors closed. But we got a nice thank you letter from the mayor at that time. Other hereditaries that joined us, this is Red Jacket. He's very unfortunate that he's not here. He's one of the best speakers. He's Mohawk Siniga. He's also a peacekeeper, and he wants to see peace on the lands of Kanata, Turtle Island. A wonderful woman by the name of Belinda, who became a member with us, and she was appointed as our ambassador for South Africa. And then Clinton, he is a shaman. And then we had another member who did the same thing we did. He cut up all his government ID, sent it back to the government and said, I'm sovereign and I'm a member with the Southern Squamish government. Uh-oh. What do? Call him into court. And I said, no problem. Send an email to the judge and the police department. Now, one police officer or bailiff or sheriff showed up in court. And he showed up with his paperwork, and he said, I'm sovereign. Why are you calling me in here? Well, traffic violation. Well, you know, you got all the account things handled. He says, I've got nothing to do here because you don't have a jurisdiction over me. And I consider this matter closed, and I love you very much. And off he went. So, and he's never been bothered since then. However, I must say that his sovereignty means that he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a house, he doesn't have a bank account, he works in construction, cash under the table, and there's nothing that Revenue Canada wants from him now. Because he's just alive. But that's where they got it wrong. Because you are alive, you are a creditor of life. You're not a debtor. You guys are not debtors to contract. You're creditors. Most beautiful, abundant creditors of life. In any event, I'm going to make this short because I could talk forever about our experiences with the government of Canada and the government of British Columbia. But I want to cut it short. And we've got our tax exempt certificate. There is a company in Abbotsford that is currently using it. Whenever we make a purchase, it's a tax exempt purchase. They take a photocopy of our certificate, they attach it to their paperwork, and they say, if you've got a problem with this particular invoice transaction, go see the Southern Squamish government. They don't want to see us. So it's worked so far. We've got a business certificate. The business certificate is for people who want to be supported by the Southern Squamish government. We would love to support organic farmers. We're so for that. We would love to support supplements, vitamins, natural health solutions, and practitioners, alternative practitioners. Insofar as our banking, and I'm going to bring in another speaker that is just, I'm just so grateful to have you in our life. We have been looking for a financial alternative because the system is crashing. And the Southern Squamish government decided to take all the registered liens that we had and we put it into a fiduciary trust holdings position with the Central Bank of Squamish. We are not registered with the Federal Reserve. We are not registered with the IMF. We are not registered with the BEIS, which is Bureau of International Settlements. We are not registered with the IRS, CRA, and all those alpha soup companies. We are out of the box. And our international bills of exchange have already gone in front of judges, in front of lawyers. They know exactly what this is all about. It's a very simple transaction. We adopted the International Bill of Exchange Act, 1882. It's a two-pager. It's a no-brainer. It's a settlement upon receipt, no taxes, no interest rates. And